everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Love Like Crazy. We're your hosts, Jay and Stacey Coleman. We're so excited that you've joined us today, and we are so thankful for all of our listeners. We appreciate those of you who are subscribing to YouTube and who are following us and listening on Apple and Spotify. Help us get the word out. Let others know that you're enjoying this podcast, and maybe the information that we're sharing could also help those that you know. And so today we're going to jump into a great topic for you. We're going to be talking about a marriage checkup.
Yeah, what we really want everybody to do today is kind of look at your marriage and see where you are and really evaluate your marriage, because all of us, I don't care how long you've been married, whether you're newlywed, maybe you've been married 6 months, maybe a year, or maybe you've been married 30 years. We've been together for 31 years, married 31 years together as a couple for 33 years. And I know for us, it's beneficial for us from time to time to kind of evaluate where we are, see what's going on, talk some things through. And so today, really let it be a test of how healthy your marriage is. Now, quite honestly, you might say, well, there are some areas that we need to work on a little bit. And what you need to understand is that every marriage needs work all the way through. It doesn't matter if you're newlywed or you've been married 50 years. You always need to be working on your marriage. You always need to be building your marriage.
Yes.
And I think that one of the greatest mistakes that we make as married couples, a lot of times we walk through something and we isolate it within our mind. What I mean by that is we begin to think that we're the only one dealing with something like this. All these other people out there, their marriages are amazing. Their marriages are magical. And our marriage is falling apart because we're arguing about whatever it may be. And the truth of the matter is every couple walks through things. They are dealing with things. They are growing in areas. And I know for us, the things that we walked through early on, we would resolve them. But then there were other things throughout the years, especially as we got into the raising children through the teenage years, and now where we are even empty nesting, just me and you being in the house, we had to reevaluate, readjust in some areas.
Because everyone is in different seasons. We have transitions, whether our kids are little or we're newlyweds and our teenagers, or like us, we're empty nesters. We need to take a moment to assess where we're at in that particular season. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I know that a lot of times whenever I'm doing marital counseling, we have been counseling couples now for years. We've been in pastoral ministry for about 30 years. And I know that whenever we sit and we do marital counseling, one of the biggest things that a lot of couples, bring out in those sessions are that they think that we're walking through this so it's detrimental. And for me and you,
no one else is going through it.
Nobody else is going through it. And for me and you, we've always just been very open, very honest with couples. A lot of times people think that as pastors, your lives are perfect. You never walk through anything. And we've just always presented ourselves as we're real people, just like everybody else. We walk through the very similar things as everybody else. And so a lot of times in those sessions when we would sit and share with them, oh, yeah, we walked through that, at one season in life. Or, whenever our kids were this age, we dealt with the same thing. And it's always amazed me, the look on their face, like, really? You guys have faced this as well? And it's like, yeah, most couples deal with that. And here's how you navigate your way through that.
Right.
So many times we face something in marriage and the enemy comes in when I say enemy, I'm talking about our spiritual enemy. The devil comes and he tries to get us to isolate ourselves. We're the only one. Everybody else is doing great. We're not doing so great. Jesus talked about this in the book of John, that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come to give life. And so his sole purpose, the enemy's sole purpose, is to destroy your marriage, destroy your family, to snuff out any vision or direction that God may have for you. But Jesus wants to bring life into your marriage, life into your family, and for you to live out the purpose that he has for you. So today, we're going to throw out some different areas that we have considered before. And some of these areas, we've touched on them throughout the beginning of this podcast. We've talked about so many things regarding life, regarding family, regarding marriage. And so with that in mind, some of the things that we talk about today, we may have talked about them in past episodes, but today what we are really asking for you to do is really evaluate where you are. So once again, it's time for a marriage checkup.
A marriage checkup. It's time to make an assessment of where you're at, and I think it's important that we do that from time to time. So we're going to ask a few questions, and I want you to each think about these questions for yourself personally as we do this marriage checkup, this assessment of where we're at in this season. And the first one is this: how is your communication? So let's think about that. Most most couples talk, what is it, an average of 4 minutes a day?
It's about 4 minutes a day. Statistically, that number has changed somewhat. It'll get a little better, get a little worse, but on average, it's about 4 minutes a day. And then whenever you think about the amount of time that we spend away from each other at work, about the amount of time that we spend watching Netflix, the time that we, maybe with other things we do, whether it's exercising, eating, time with the kiddos, all that kind of stuff, actively, and that 4 minutes is actually actively engaging one another as a couple to sit. And it's not just, hey, how you doing? Or hi, or I love you. It's really engaging in conversation. And so 4 minutes a day is not a whole lot.
No. And I mean, I can remember back when we were dating, I mean, it was, we talked on the phone all the time. I mean, we were writing each other letters. We were communicating constantly because we were trying to get to know each other. And then as the years go by,
Once you get used to each other,
and you get used to each other, and the kids come along, and there's all these different things biting for your time, then it's not so important to dig in a little deeper to like, hey, honey, how was your day? What's going on in your life, kind of thing. But it's important that we're intentional in that, because if we're not, then everything becomes about the kids and not so much about the marriage. And so, and two, you have to think about how men and women, they communicate differently. Women, we're way more emotional. A lot of times staying in our feelings and so forth. And men are,
just
all about the facts. Right. And so it's not only it's, learning how to communicate with each other, and learning, just how to be, a married couple in whatever season that you're in. And I mean, it's wonderful that, teaming up together with the kids and doing all the things that are needed, but you have to take that one-on-one time.
Well, here's a thought
for communication.
For you. When you're saying that men we like the facts and women are more emotional, think about how a woman's going to respond if you say, hey, sweetheart, how was your day today? She's going to go in and give you probably a pretty good explanation of what her day was. I was at the office and my coworker, came by and we talked about so-and-so. And then she said this and it upset me a little bit. And then I had this for lunch. She's going to tell you
all the details.
Hey, sweetheart, how was your day? She gives the details. As a man, wife asks husband, how was your day? Fine.
That's about all you get.
And it's like, no, tell me how your day was. It was pretty good. And that's just kind of how men communicate. I'm just going to go ahead and say this, guys need to do better than that. Your wife needs more out of you than just a fine or it was great. You need to be able to open up and share your life with her, because what she's really asking for is to engage with you. And she wants to know what is going on inside of you. How was your day? And when you will actually open up and share with her what you've experienced, maybe there were some frustrations you walked through. Maybe there were some things that were exciting throughout the day. Share those things with her. The reason why is because she's wanting to actively engage with you. And Proverbs 13:17 is one of those verses that I love. I've actually used it quite a bit in counseling sessions. And the writer in Proverbs says, reliable communication permits progress. Very short verse, but it's a very powerful verse. And the reason why it's so powerful is because if you want progress within your marriage, you need good communication. You need to be willing to open up and share with one another. I'm glad you brought up talking about when we were dating, because when we dated, we dated for a year. We were engaged for a year.
Right.
Then we got married in June of 1992. And I know
good memory. Bonus points for that.
For me. I know that we had a long distance relationship. You were in Baton Rouge going to school, pursuing your degree in music. I was back in Alexandria, Louisiana. We live in Louisiana. And I know we had a distance of about 2 to 2.5 hours in between us. And this was long before everybody had cell phones. That was back in the day. If you had a cell phone, it was the brick phone, big giant cell phone that would, give you, health issues. Or you had a car phone that was attached within your vehicle and you couldn't leave with it. And so we would sit and literally talk on the phone with one another, a landline, for hours. And you had to pay by the minute for the long distance.
Yes, and we ran up quite a bill.
I know every month my dad would get the phone bill, and he was always
Yeah.
upset, and I constantly owed him money for the phone bill. But do you remember how we also communicated with each other?
Just writing those long, long letters.
Long letters. And we actually still have those letters. And it's funny, we'll break them out from time to time and read them. And it's kind of cheesy, some of the stuff that we wrote to each other. Right. I remember that what you would do, and this was kind of cool, you would you'd write a letter, and then you put lipstick on, you kiss that letter, and you'd spray it with perfume.
Right.
And it was like, wowza.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
We've progressed from that now. We don't write each other letters anymore. We do get them out, read them from time to time, and laugh about them. And I also think it's kind of sweet to see the things that we were feeling for each other in that time frame. Now, with that said, we talk about communication. You need to, when you communicate with one another, it is a lot of times people think, well, we text each other, that's communication. We talk on the phone, that's communication. And I get it. It qualifies as communication. But a lot of times people, when you're texting or you're talking on the phone with one another, you feel empowered. You feel the ability to be able to maybe say some things that you would have restraint there. And so when I'm saying communication within your marriage in a way that's going to bring health, what I'm talking about is you're going to sit and talk with one another in person and actively engage each other.
Right.
So,
well, and I want to speak to the ladies on this. We are full of wanting the details. We probably use way more words in a day than the men do. And I think especially when you're in the season with your young kids, your husband comes home from work and he's had a long day, and we may be like, hey, this is what went on today, and we want to just throw out all these details. But in actuality, we need to be mindful to let our husbands have a few moments to, come in and
gather
their thoughts from the day. Maybe do what's needed with the kids, have dinner together, get the baths and put the kids to bed and so forth. And then take a few moments when everything has settled down, intentionally say, we're going to spend time together once we get the kids in bed, and we're going to sit and talk about, just things from the day, or things
what's going on with the kids, what's going on within our family,
in our lives that needs to be talked about, and be intentional that there is that time to communicate with one another. But I also want to say, no, we don't write letters anymore and all that kind of stuff. And texting is part of our normal everyday life now. And I think it's okay. I know you and I do this from time to time. We just send a text to each other like, hey, love you, thinking of you kind of thing, that's important.
I think it's great to send each other love notes. Send a sexy little text to each
sexy
other.
Little text. Okay.
And that way maybe get the juices flowing for whenever you
so
get
when
home
you
that
do,
night.
When you do put the kids to bed, then you
that's right.
Really,
you really want to communicate.
Really
some hands-on communication.
Is that what you call that?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up about
about a marriage checkup.
A lot of times men come in and they're not in the frame of mind to really want to talk at that moment.
Right.
They've had a stressful day. And I'm just going to say this as well. Doesn't matter what the occupation is, the husband or the wife could have a very stressful day. A lot of times whenever a wife has a stressful day, she comes home and she's ready to talk about it. Husband has a stressful day. He comes home and he's not ready to talk about it. Sometimes, and it depends on your personality, and you will know with each other whether or not your spouse needs this kind of some time to depressurize. And so with that said, as you were talking about, have dinner together, put the kids to bed, but then take that time to communicate. Don't get to the place like, okay, we've gone this long, we're tired, let's just go to bed. No. You need to make sure that you're going to talk through and really communicate, because when you communicate with each other, you're connecting with each other.
And that's so important.
And guys, let me say this to you. You cannot expect from your wife any type of physical interaction. The bedroom's probably not going to be all that spicy if you're not willing to communicate with her. And so with that said, many, many times there's issues within the bedroom because there's expectations there but you're not investing in the marriage in the way that you need
Right.
to be able to have that spice in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's very valuable for us to be willing to open up, share with one another, and really give our spouse, and when I say, I'm talking to the guys now, to give our wife what she needs
Mm-hmm.
in regards to communication. If you're not willing to communicate with her and talk with her, then don't expect the stuff in the bedroom later.
There you go. All
So
right.
how is your, I started to say, how's your bedroom life? No, how is your communication with each other? Remember, we are doing a marriage checkup today. We're evaluating
Mhm.
where we are. And so honestly, sit and begin to talk through some stuff. Remember Proverbs 13:17, reliable communication permits progress. If you want progress within your marriage, be willing to communicate with each other.
Yes,
So
very important.
let's go to the next one. The next one is this. How is your consideration of each other? Are you
Yes. Are
considerate?
you considerate of one another? Yeah, I mean, it's really talking about showing love in a way that's being helpful to each other and serving one another is being considerate. Just showing common courtesy to each other, and I mean, we should treat others as we want to be treated, and I know that it's kind of hard sometimes because, say, I don't know, the football game is going on and your wife comes in with groceries. You don't want to have to drop everything to go and help, but it would be,
It would be
the
considerate,
it would be considerate
but
to
is
do
it
so.
considerate of your wife to say, hey, listen, wait until the football game is over and then get the
Not
groceries?
when there are groceries that need to be put away.
They need to go in the refrigerator.
Yes, yes. So we can't let the groceries ruin. No, I think of different ways that we are considerate of one another. I know here recently we had our women's conference, and leading up to a big event that we host at our church every year. I know that it gets a little, can get a little stressful for me, and I so appreciate when you are very considerate to help me out in different ways, because I have, a lot of things on my mind, on my plate at the time, and like, thank you for doing the dishes and different things like that
You're
to help
welcome.
out.
And look, I got to tell you, I hate doing the dishes.
I know you do. I know you do, but
I-
I appreciate you being considerate towards
Well,
me.
and I will tell you this, a lot of times I use that as an example and illustration so many times whenever I talk to the men, that if you really, and we're going to go back to the bedroom life, if you really want, spice within your love life, then do the dishes for your wife. If you, everybody's all about being romantic, the most romantic thing that you can do for your spouse is wash the dishes, sweep the floor, help with some laundry. I know for you, it's like, we always talk about romance and, romancing one another. But for you,
Yeah.
you love it whenever I do things
Mhm.
around the house and it blesses you.
Mhm.
And, I will tell you this much, that is, we're talking about consideration. How is your consideration of one another? Are you selfish? Our human nature is to be selfish, to think about myself first. I don't want to get up and do this. I just came home from work. I know you're coming in with these groceries. I'm watching the game. I'm whatever it might be. Our human nature is to be selfish. But if we're going to have a healthy marriage, we have to be considerate of one another. And here's another thing. It's a characteristic of Christ within our lives.
Yeah.
If we are going to model Christ, not only outside of the home, but also within the home to our spouse, then we are going to be considerate of one another.
Right.
We're going to look for ways that we can serve each other.
Right, because it's serving one another, and it's being a helpmate to each other. And I know for one of the things that I try to be really mindful about is like keeping all of your clothes clean and folded
You
and
do a
put
great
away.
job with that.
Because I know that when things are not in order like that, it tends to,
Bring
tends to,
aggravation.
yes, some frustration. And so, whatever it is, in your marriage, in your life with your spouse, that, hey, if I did this, it would be a help to my spouse, then those are the things that you need to be mindful about and be considerate of one another and helping them and in serving them.
And I think we're always so easily able to pick out the faults in other people that you a lot of times can pick out, hey, this is an area that I really wish that my spouse would work on within their life. But honestly, as we're talking about a checkup within our marriage, we're talking about consideration. what are the areas within my life? And I really want everybody to evaluate this. What are the areas in my life where I could be more considerate in?
Mhm.
I know for me, I'm not a very patient person. And I
Really?
see it all over your face. You're like, what? Are you serious? I'm not a very patient person. I think for the most part, a lot of guys, like you're sitting in the car waiting on your wife and you're honking the horn,
Mhm.
like, come on. I cannot emphasize how many times I've sat in the car waiting on you. And it's like you're sitting, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And honestly, if I'm going to evaluate myself, then I
Yeah.
realize that that's an area that I need to work on, that I need to be more patient with you.
Right.
And I'm hoping that you're sitting across this desk today thinking to
I think that's
yourself,
the story of every man
it is,
probably
but
waiting on
I'm
his
hoping that you're
wife.
sitting across this desk today saying, I need to evaluate. I need to speed up a little bit.
I need to spend it- Well, I'm sitting here thinking of one of the things that I have worked on, and I want you to, say that this is true. One of the things that I've worked on in consideration um, with you is that, I'm a night owl and you're an early morning
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm going to say. And over the years, I get like this second wind to like clean the house and you're ready to go to bed. And I like to stay up. Well, it has caused some
Oh yeah,
problems.
yeah.
And you would prefer that I settle down and go to sleep when you go to sleep. It helps you to go to sleep if I go to bed with you at the
Well,
same time.
what I would tell you was this: I didn't, God did not send me a wife, and I didn't marry you so I could sleep by myself at nighttime.
That's
And I know for a lot of guys, probably the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. I sleep better when you're there
Right.
next to me.
Right.
And so you would get, all excited about cleaning the house,
I
which is
know.
good.
Yeah. I
I
know.
understand. It's wonderful to clean the house.
But I have shifted, and because I do want to, be considerate of you, and so I have tried very hard to go to bed at a decent time with you
Well,
and
and and
change that.
and I will say you have done good in that area. That is
Yeah.
very considerate of you.
Mhm.
And so I think it's fair for us as husbands, as wives, as Christians, as parents, to really
Mhm.
do a healthy evaluation of where we are individually. Don't evaluate your spouse, evaluate yourself.
Mhm.
If we're really going to evaluate our marriages to really see where the health falls, or do we have a healthy marriage? Where is our communication on a scale of 1 to 10? Are we a 7? Are we a 5? Where are we? Where are the areas that I need to work on? As a
Mhm.
man, I need to be more open to my wife. I need to be more vulnerable with her. I need to be
Mhm.
willing to open up and share with her what's really going on. Well, I'm not really good with words. It doesn't matter. Get good with words. Or you
Mhm.
don't have to be good. Just tell her like, "Hey, had a bad day at work. This is what happened." Or had a good day at work. This is what
Mhm.
happens. But really evaluate yourself, evaluate where you are, and then really look at your life and see where you fall within a scale of 1 to 10 with consideration. Are you rude? Are you impatient? Are you just a jerk? Well, then what you
Mhm.
need to do is you need to repent. You need to ask God to change you, and you need to work on those areas within your life. Now, I'm talking to the husbands, but also
Mhm.
women fall in this category as well. Are you
Right.
considerate of your husband? Here's another question for you. Are you willing to serve one another within the marriage? Okay.
Mhm.
I know for you, one of the things that I love to cook, it's just one of the giftings that I have. And a lot of times I'll come home, I'll cook some dinner, and I actually will make you a plate.
Mhm.
Or if I'm cooking, say, gumbo or something like that, I'll make you a bowl of
Mhm.
gumbo. I'll bring it
Mhm.
to you. To me, that's just a very simple and easy way that I can serve you. I'm showing you consideration.
Right.
And on the flip side of that, then many times, because our rule is I'll cook, you clean, because
Right.
you
That's right.
you don't mind washing the dishes. So
Mhm.
when we get through before we go to bed, you'll clean up the kitchen, wash the dishes. Sometimes I help you with that. Or the next morning I get up and I'm getting ready and I go to my drawer and there's a fresh T-shirt, there's a fresh
Mhm.
set of under
Garments.
garments, and that is a way that you're able to serve me and help take care of me. So
Yeah.
are you serving each other? And are you doing it with a joyful attitude, or are you doing it with a begrudging type of, oh man, I got to
Mhm.
do this? No. You have the opportunity to serve your spouse. God has blessed you with a spouse. Scripture tells us
Mhm.
when a man finds a wife, he finds
That's
a
a good
good
thing.
thing.
That's right.
And so the opportunity to serve one another within the marriage is a awesome thing. It is a beautiful thing.
And
And it's showing consideration for each other.
right. So as you're making this assessment, you're doing this marriage checkup. Um, in this season of life that you're in. You just need to take a moment and realize, okay, there may be some things that I need to change. And if there are some things that I need to change, pray and ask the Lord to show you what those things are and move towards that so
Okay.
that you can have a healthier marriage.
Well, now the last one we're going to talk about today, and we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to go more than 3, but the last one is one that it could be a hot button issue. And it is this: how are you with compromise? Or I guess here's a better way to say it: are you willing to compromise within the marriage?
Mm-hmm.
So many times it has to be my way or the highway. And when your mindset is my way or the highway, that is going to erode your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to do destruction within your marriage. I guess that a real mark of compromise within the marriage is a lot of times couples or people look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And 1 Corinthians chapter 13 talks about, a lot of people call it the love chapter. And with that in mind, I read many times from this particular chapter. I will read, in weddings and things of that nature that I do. But it says this: love does not demand its own way. And if you really love one another, if you really have a heart to love Jesus, but to love one another within the marriage, you are not going to be a demanding type personality. Hey, it has to be my way
or the highway.
You're going to be willing to compromise.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like going to bed early, I had to compromise with, how you like to go to bed early and I didn't. And so, yeah, it's important.
Yeah. I know that for us, whenever it comes to compromise, what I have noticed throughout our marriage is, and I've talked about this in the past, early on, I was very immature, very, very selfish within the marriage.
Well, we both were.
And I would agree with that. I think that we both wanted our way, and that's human nature. But the further we got into the marriage, we realized, hey, if we're going to grow together, if this marriage is going to be strong and healthy, we have to be willing to there has to be give and take within the marriage.
To be able to compromise, and things change depending on what season of marriage that you're in. There may be different opportunities for you to choose to compromise.
Well, and another thing is this: there will be things within the marriage that you're probably never going to see eye to eye on.
Oh, no, right.
And some things you just have to agree to disagree with. I'm going to just throw out a real silly example. You guys know that I love to drink coffee. In the morning, first thing I do, I get up, I brush my teeth, I put my contact lenses in, and I immediately go and have a fresh cup of community coffee.
Community coffee, yeah.
I love
Louisiana
community
brand.
coffee. It is a Louisiana brand cafe special. It is amazing. And I drink several cups a day. I love to drink coffee. And you have never been a coffee drinker.
No.
And I have tried everything under the sun to get you to drink coffee with. Hey, this is great. Get up in the morning, drink a cup of coffee with me, hang out, or even whenever we go to our camp and hey, drink some coffee. You will not drink coffee. There is no, and I'm like, your mindset is it is disgusting. I cannot stand it.
Right.
And with that in mind, it's I'm bringing this up in a silly way, but it's something that we have to agree to disagree on. Okay. Now think of more serious things like how you're going to handle your children, for example. There are areas you've got to walk in unity in, and there may be some things that come up that you do disagree about. Maybe politically you disagree about some things, and you just have to agree to disagree on some things. So you're two completely separate personalities. You are, when you come into the covenant of marriage and the eyes of God, you become one family unit. But personally, there may be some things that you don't quite see eye to eye on. So you can still walk in unity, just simply agreeing to disagree on some things.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking maybe I could compromise with you a little bit about the coffee in the morning time. I would just have to make mine hot chocolate.
Okay, hot chocolate's good. I think that's fair. So I will wake you up tomorrow morning at 5:15 a.m.
That early?
Okay. So here's where we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I hope that this has been a good, episode for you, and realistically evaluate where you are, see where you are personally, see where your marriage is, and really sit down and talk through some of these things and evaluate your communication. Do we communicate? How strong is our communication? How healthy is our communication? Are we willing to compromise on some different things? Are we willing to work our way through these things? Are we considerate of each other? Are we serving one another within the marriage? Because all of those things speak to health. And let me say this as well. How you are doing in these areas isn't just a blessing to one another within the marriage. It'll be a blessing to your family.
Yes.
It'll also be a blessing to others around you as well.
Yes.
So as we wrap up, do you have anything else you want to share?
Just take a moment, do that marriage checkup. It's important.
It certainly is. So, hey, thank you guys for joining us today for Love Like Crazy. We have so enjoyed doing this episode today and talking about a checkup within our marriage, healthy evaluation within the marriage. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like, you subscribe, you share, leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are regarding the podcast, and do us a favor, share it with your friends, your neighbors, everybody you know. Help us to get the word out, because we want this to be a blessing to other people as well, to help build their life, their marriage, and their family. As always, I'm Jay.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is Love Like Crazy.